Welcome back to our video series, I guess you can call it. After class last night, we went through several different kinds of processes to make sure that we were getting ready for our final and getting ready for our next exam. The syllabus is right here, and you might notice that last week was the 22nd. This week that we just went through is the 29th. There's a discussion that's going to be due, our last discussion. We have Unit 14, and then next week we have Unit 15, and then we are done with any of the lecture part of class. You will come in on the 12th and you'll take your exam, and then you're done. And then next time you show up, you'll take your final. So things are getting really close to the end here. Yesterday, I put it on all the students to start working on things other than the only section at hand. I wouldn't spend my entire week-long time out of class working on just Unit 14. I would go back and start looking at the practice exam. I would go back and start looking at some other things that I could do to get ready for both the last test and the final exam. There is a practice final exam out there as well, so you should be able to looking at that. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to jump into the worksheet that I had started on Tuesday night, Monday night, Wednesday night together. And this is under the cumulative review exercises tab, meaning it's some stuff that you should already know how to do. So we spent a good amount of time, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes going through these. I'll put down some of them and you can go back and look at them as needed. I may not do all of them, but I'm going to do them at a pretty fast pace. So you can just double see, or sorry, you can always stop, rewind, and double check that's what's happening here. A woman who is 5 feet 6 inches tall, otherwise known as 66 inches tall. Okay. This section is really getting you to review for the final. These questions will be on the final exam, so these are review questions for the final. And the question number one would start with 66 inches over 1. We always try to be consistent and pick something similar. It happens in every example. Number 2, milliliters per ounces. That would be 120 milliliters over 1, which is a good start for that. And number 3, 187 pounds over 1. So we are being careful to be consistent so that we can start moving forward as we go. And if you looked up on your fact sheet, you would see that there are in fact 2.54 centimeters for every 1 inch. And if you looked on your fact sheet, you would see that 1 ounce is equal to 30 milliliters. And if you looked on your fact sheet, you would see that 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So I went through my fact sheet and found those 3 facts. One of the other things that we talk a lot about here is our units. And there's a bell from my high school. If I cross off the 2 units that are circled, the only unit that I'm left with is centimeters, and that's what I want. If I circle milliliters and milliliters, I'm looking for ounces, and that's what's left over. If I circle pounds and pounds, I'm looking for kilograms, which is what I end up having. Okay? The way we do these questions is top times top, bottom times bottom. This one turned out to be 167.64. This one turned out to be 120 over 30. And this one turned out to be 187 over 2.2. The first question is done. The next 2 questions you have to divide, and that comes out to be 4 and 85. 4 ounces, 85 kilograms, and 167.64 centimeters. Moving on to the next 3 at the bottom. Number 4, 5, and 6. Number 5, we talked about military time, and I didn't put a lot of effort into answering that question. The answer is 1655. Not really sure where that section is. It might be like Unit 1, but it might be something to go back and look at. Number 4 was looks like it's similar to the one we did above, because you might need your fact sheet, but you also would want to recall these 9 or 7 letters in a row, because We have 5.6 centimeters, and we want to go to millimeters. So we move our decimal point over one space, giving me 56 milliliters. Review that by rewinding it if you need to, but that's how we take care of business when we have a metric to metric situation as opposed to the ones that were above. Number 6 brings us into our word solution. So this is definitely going to be quizzable and testable in the next few weeks. I think it's actually unit 13. Last week we talked about solutions quite a bit. So this is not for this would be on the final, but more appropriately, it's going to be on the next exam. So we write down the doctor's order first, and in solution words, we want to use the percent situation that it says here for the sodium chloride solution, otherwise known as salt solution. So when I see this percent and I see solution, I know I need to have 100 mLs in the question somewhere, and I have to have the 0.9 grams on my list. Okay, so as a recollection, if it was not 0.9%, means 0.9 grams over 100 mLs, or it means 100 mLs over 0.9 grams. And it all depends on what the first thing is, which tells you what the second. Okay, multiplication here turned out to be 4.5 grams. Top times top divided by bottom times bottom. But this question didn't ask for grams, it asked for milligrams. So I got to go back to my way of changing from grams to milligrams. 4.5 would be under B, which stands for grams, and I got to move it over 3 spaces, which gives me a final answer of 4,500 milligrams. I suggest you review that as many times as you need to and go back to the previous video on solutions if you need some help on that part. All right, on the other side, it was a lot of work about dosages. This is all coming up on the next test. So this is all for exam number 3. Everything here on this page is all about exam number 3. So good review to remind ourselves of some of the things. I'm going to go pretty fast. You can always stop and review if needed. But we're going to talk about everything that it says here. Okay. The doctor's order is 0.6 milligrams over 1 kilogram. The doctor's order is 0.25 milligrams over 1. The doctor's order is 5 milligrams over 1. The only one that's a little different is that one of them said milligrams per kilogram. But they all came first, and they all had something over 1 or something that you can work on with that. So in this one, it says a person weighs 100 pounds over 1. That's the only information given, so we can put that over 1. In this one, it says that the strength is 0.25 milligrams for every 1 ml. That comes right from here, the strength. And then the last one says 2.5 milligram tablets. So 2.5 milligram over 1 tablet is what we're looking at here. Okay? The only one that has a bit of a twist is that this is in pounds and this is in kilograms. So we had a discussion that I might as well write this as 2.2 pounds because 1 kilogram is in fact equal to 2.2 pounds. So when I do the top of the top and the bottom times the bottom for this one, I get this. When I do the top and the top and the bottom for this one, I get this. When I do the top and the top and the bottom, I get this. And that translates to 3 answers, 27.3, 1, and 2. So 2 tablets, 1 milliliter, and 27.3 milligrams. So that's how those are set up as we go through that. The next 3 in 30 seconds or less. We have 100 tablets and each is 50 milligrams. So we do 100 times 50, which turns out to be 5,000 milligrams. This one, This 2,300 hours means 11 p.m. on Wednesday. 12 hours would be 11 a.m. on Thursday. 13 hours would be noon on Thursday. Didn't do a lot of work with that day, EA1. So just looking for you to take care of business there on your own. Number 14, how many mLs of a 2% solution? Well, the doctor's order is 3 grams over 1. 2 grams goes on the bottom and 100 mLs goes on the top, which means I have 300 over 2, which is 150. The grams are both circled, and my answer is in mL. All right, so I'm going to transition to a different worksheet on IV flow rates. If you go to, or if you're paying attention to what is next, we should be working on Unit 14 this week. Unit 14 has some homework in there where we are looking at IV flow rates. So by pulling this up on the screen, you should see that we're going to be talking about IV flow rate. So this whole first sentence, complete the following calculations in an IV flow rate. So that is what this section is all about. So here's my transition to the next worksheet that was out there. It's up there in Canvas for you, and it probably says something to do about IV flow in your list. Right? We spent a lot of time on this one yesterday, and so it would be good to double check some of the answers here. And again, you can always rewind the video if you aren't sure. We'll cross off 2. I don't think 2 was very interesting after going through it. Number 3 and the other ones are going to be very interesting. So, first of all, we have questions number 1, which asks for the pump setting. In number question 4, it asks for the pump setting. In question number 6, it asks for the pump setting. Those are 3 separate questions that all ask for the same thing. Question 1 would be done by doing the following. I have 1,000 mLs over 16 hours. That's all you have to write and do the division. Sorry about that. That's all you have to write there because we have ml over hour, and that comes out to be 62.5. So it's 62.5 mLs per hour. When you do flow pump setting, all you have to do is make sure the milliliters are on the top and the hours are on the bottom. Number 4, the 3/4 strength ensure is not important to the question. It's just a label. But for number 4 is going to be 240 mLs over 8 hours. And then number 6, 1,000 mLs over 24 hours. That's how you do number 4, number 6. Okay? So just do the division and come up with an answer of 30 milliliters per hour and 41.6 milliliters per hour. So again, rewind this if you need to, but all I'm doing is reading the question, putting the mLs over the hour, and then dividing. Number 3 and number 5 take into account some other things. So here's how we take care of that. Number 3, we should start off by writing 2,000 mLs over 12 hours, because that's what the doctor's order is. We are looking to get drops, that's what GTT stands for, over minutes. So I know where I want to be at the end, and I know where I am at the start. So I've got to figure out how to get minutes on the bottom and drops on the top. Well, I can get minutes on the bottom when I look at the fact that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. And if I circle hour and hour, I now have mLs per minute. The drop factor says here that mLs are somewhere, so I can put 10 drops per 1 ml. That means if I circle ml and ml, I am left with GTT per minute. And I've put down the right number of fractions in order to make that work, and that should come out to be 220,000 over 720, which turns out to be 27.8 drops per minute. All I'm doing is multiplying top, 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 and bottom, 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 and then dividing to get my final answer. These are also up on Canvas, so you can see how that works. Okay. Number 5, we found to be very easy as well. We are putting 20 milliliters into the person per hour for 4 hours, and that answer came out to be 80 milliliters. So we have a pretty straightforward set of questions on that side. Several of them had the same process, mLs over hour, mLs over hour, mLs over hour. Only one of them had a little bit of math that had to do with fractions, and so you should be good to go with that. As we jump over here, question number 7, I'm just going to write it down real fast because it's the same kind of situation as the one we just did. I have everything set up almost basically exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that it's 20 drops per 1 minute instead of 10 drops per minute. This again comes out to be, oddly enough, 20,000 over 720. Same two numbers. So that gives me the same answer as the one, number 3 that we just did. So there is an idea there for you to look at in terms of that. And we'll take a look at number 9. Probably leave number 11 out. Those in class found it to be frustrating a little bit, but also it wasn't really on the list of things to do in my math lab. So here's the last one we'll do here on this page, number 9. It says that we have a 500 milliliter IV, and it runs at a drop factor of 10 drops per ml. And then it says that I have this pump setting at 33 drops per minute. So if I have drops on the top, I have to have 33 drops per 1 minute on the top. And if I circle ml, ml, drop, drop, this is going to give me the answer of just the minutes. And the reason I want to know minutes is it says what time is it going to finish. It comes out to be 5,000 over 33, which is 151.5 minutes. And so the added twist to this one is I have to start at 9 p.m. and I have to add 151.5 minutes. Well, 60 minutes would be 10 p.m. 120 minutes would be 11 p.m. and then I have 31 minutes left. So it would be 11:31 or 11:32 as your answer for those. Okay, take some time to rewind if needed. Here's the last problem that we worked on last night. It's right out of the My Math Lab section, so you should be looking at that. The questions that come up look very similar. Here's one of them. And then we have some other questions that go along. So we will take some time to do that right now. And that means for this example, and for future examples you see, the formula that they show to use in the My Math Lab is to do the 127 over 120 minutes times the 10. 2 hours is 120 minutes. So we would take our first number, write it on the top. We would take our 120 minutes, write it on the bottom. We would take our 10 and write it here. And when we do all that math that comes out, it comes out to be 10.5. And that is what would go into the computer for your answer in Unit 14. Second to last question here. 3 liters in 18 hours. This is milliliters per hour. 3 liters is 3,000 milliliters over 18 hours. And that turns out to be 167 milliliters per hour. Okay? And the last two I'll do here on the other side are questions 10 or 12 and 16. Question number 12, I'm going to add 120 mLs per hour. This turns out to be 564 over 120. And this last one down here says I'm doing 28 mLs for 16 hours, so it would just be 28 times 16, which turns out to be 440. All right, thanks for watching the video. If you have some questions, let me know, and we will see you in class, our last class, where we have lecture next week.